When the crimson flare of the alien flagship scorched Earth's upper atmosphere, vaporizing the diplomatic shuttle carrying Ambassador Helen Sarai, humanity lost more than a leader. They lost their last thread of peace. Every nation that once bickered over borders now united under a single banner of vengeance. And the Earth Federation was born in fire, fury, and resolve. The assassin race known only as the Virex had warned us. Earth's expansion into the Andromeda threshold had crossed ancient lines, and their strike was meant to humble us. Instead, it forged something terrifying: unity fueled by grief. The very hour Helen's atoms scattered into space, her final transmission, part plea, part prophecy, echoed across all frequencies. If they silence one voice, millions will rise, and rise they did. War factories lit the night skies of New Berlin, Nairobi, and Neo-Tokyo, as prototype mechs were christened with her name. Sarai-class titans designed not for diplomacy but annihilation. Humanity, once fractured and soft, now roared with a singular heartbeat, its anthem coded into the combat AI of every starfighter. Never forgive, never forget. The first retaliatory fleet, the Omega Spear, launched within 3 lunar cycles, led by Helen's daughter, Commander Lena Sarai, who stared through the reinforced glass of her dreadnought at the blackness ahead, knowing the Virex homeworld awaited beyond it. She remembered the day her mother took her to the UN moon base and spoke of peace, only to now wear armor etched with every known weakness of the enemy. As Earth ships blinked into fold space, Lena issued one command: no survivors. Across the stars, Virex sentinels picked up the warp signatures, their spiked war moons shifting formation, unaware that humanity's pain had mutated into something colder, calculated, strategic, and merciless. No more negotiations, no more envoys, just a species hell-bent on vengeance. And as the darkness welcomed the coming storm, a message beamed across space from the human flagship. For Sarai, for Earth, for every silent voice, you started this. We will end it. The Virex had known war for millennia, but nothing in their archives had prepared them for the fury of humanity unleashed. As the Omega Spear fleet emerged from fold space on the edge of the Virex star cluster, their silent formation mirrored the cold focus of their mission. Not conquest, but eradication. Lena Sarai stood before a digital map that pulsed with enemy systems like a beating wound, each red dot a reminder of her mother's death, and with every breath she took, she remembered Earth's ashes, cities turned to dust under Virex threats disguised as diplomacy, and her heart became steel. The first wave hit hard. Virex outposts shattered under particle lances and gravity bombs. Their shields disintegrated like paper before the upgraded Sarai-class titans, which moved like metal gods between burning moons. Virex commanders, once proud and arrogant, issued frantic commands through psionic channels, but it was too late. The humans didn't fight like soldiers. They fought like the hunted who had tasted blood, like ghosts of a million broken oaths come to collect. Lena's dreadnought, Requiem of Earth, led the charge through a mine-ringed nebula known as the Maw, where Virex had once butchered prisoners. Now it became their grave, as Lena's fleet rerouted the mines into the enemy's core reactors, lighting up the nebula in waves of blue fire. Each battle recorded and transmitted back to Earth, where billions watched not for news but for justice in high definition. On Earth, children born under red alerts now wore uniforms stitched with black thread in memory of the ambassador, reciting the Sarai oath before they could write their own names. Back on the front, Lena's AI whispered encrypted Virex chatter: panic, disbelief, retreat. Yet she gave no quarter, not when the pain still burned so fresh in her veins. Deeper into enemy space, they pushed past the Shard Belt, the last line of planetary defense guarding the Virex prime world, a living fortress of crystalline spires and mind-linked defense towers powered by the psionic screams of enslaved species. Humanity had found their captives, heard their cries, and now moved not just for revenge but to liberate. Sarai Titans detached from the fleet, entering atmosphere like divine retribution, their thunder shaking the soul of the planet. Virex skies turned black with falling debris as orbital towers were cut down, and from the ground, their priests begged their gods for answers, but their gods were silent and Earth was not. Lena herself descended in a specialized mech, carved with her mother's last words. Peace demands courage. A cruel irony now turned into a battle cry. On the Virex Central Citadel, the High Arbiter pleaded through universal channels for parley. But Lena played his signal across her command deck for all to hear, then responded with a single word. Denied. Her mech touched ground with seismic weight, leading a phalanx of armored infantry, each bearing the insignia of the Martyrs' Legion, those who had lost everything to the Virex, brothers, sisters, homes, planets. The battle below was not fought. It was delivered, swift and overwhelming, as liberation pods cracked open and freed species joined the assault. The Virex outnumbered, outgunned, and broken in spirit. Lena reached the throne hall, its walls a sick museum of trophies taken from dead diplomats and species extinct. And there she found the High Arbiter crawling, his crown cracked, begging in every language stored in his ancient mind. She looked at him, not as a warrior, but as a daughter who had watched peace die in silence, and she raised her plasma blade with a whisper. This is for her. Then ended the last echo of Virex rule. As the city fell behind her and fire lit the alien sky, she spoke to her fleet. Objective complete. Initiate Exodus protocol, for she had not come merely to destroy, but to cleanse the stars of tyranny. Survivors were taken in. Old enemies became allies, and across the galaxy a new federation emerged, not ruled by fear but forged in fire and sacrifice. Earth's message was now etched across the void, not just as vengeance but as a promise. We remember, we rise, and we never fall again. The galaxy had never witnessed such a reckoning as the aftermath of the Virex downfall echoed across the stars, and while the scorched ruins of the High Arbiter's citadel still smoldered, Commander Lena Sarai knew the war was far from over. The shattered remnants of the Virex scattered like desperate shadows into the uncharted void, their psionic link severed and their command broken. Yet pockets of fierce resistance remained, fueled by fanaticism and fear of humanity's new empire. Earth, scarred but unbowed, faced the monumental task of healing and guarding the fragile peace forged in blood, while the newly liberated species looked to Lena and her Martyrs' Legion as symbols of salvation and strength, expecting swift justice and protection from any who might threaten their fragile new home. But Lena's vision stretched beyond mere conquest or defense. She sought true unity, one that could survive the scars of war and the temptations of power, for she had witnessed the cost of division firsthand and vowed never to let history repeat its cruel cycle. Aboard the flagship Requiem of Earth, she convened a council made up not only of Earth's finest strategists, but also leaders from freed worlds, the Luthari mystics, the Graxian engineers, the peaceful Valori diplomats, each bringing their knowledge and grievances to the round table, crafting laws that prioritized coexistence over domination. However, beneath this hopeful veneer lurked the darker realities of rebuilding. Countless refugees roamed the stars, displaced by destruction and mistrust, and the Martyrs' Legion was stretched thin, not just policing borders but also quelling insurgencies from radical Virex cults who preached hatred and martyrdom, determined to ignite new flames of war. The internal tensions were mirrored on Earth itself, where scars ran deep in society, families torn apart by loss, old governments struggling to balance military demands with civilian needs, and whispers of dissent grew louder, questioning if the cost of vengeance was too high. Amidst this turmoil, Lena wrestled with her own ghosts, the face of her mother in her dreams, the weight of every life lost on her conscience, and the fear that her relentless drive for justice might one day consume her as it had consumed so many before her. Yet even as darkness threatened from within, a new threat loomed beyond the known galaxy. A distant signal intercepted by human astronomers hinting at an ancient intelligence awakened by the chaos of war. Enigmatic and vast, its motives unreadable, its power undeniable, Lena recognized that this was a test far greater than the Virex conflict, one that would demand not just weapons and armies but wisdom and trust beyond species and histories. As the stars blinked cold and distant, she prepared to lead humanity and its allies into an uncertain future, knowing that the true battle was no longer for vengeance but for survival, for meaning, and for the hope that from the ashes of destruction, a new light could rise, a light that would guide all sentient life through the darkness to come, united not by fear or hate, but by the enduring promise of peace and justice forged in the fires of sacrifice and the resilience of the human spirit.